Thank you, David. And it is a pleasure for me to be here. And I'd like to also recognize Webb Brown from the Montana Chamber. Webb is the president of the Montana Chamber. And for those of you that may not realize it, David Brown is the new incoming chairman of the board for the Montana Chamber as well. So thank you for your service. I work with Mountain Plains Equity Group here in Billings, Montana, and we do financing for low-income housing projects. And we do that in a 5-state area. So I've had the opportunity to work with Denny and his staff on various issues in Congress for a long time, on business development issues, and business issues in general, and of course on the affordable housing projects. So it's been a pleasure to be invited to join you today. I come to you in a little different capacity though. As David mentioned, I serve on the board of the U.S. Chamber representing the state of Montana. We have about 100 people on the board of directors at the U.S. Chamber, representing the business interests of about 3 million members nationwide. So it's a pleasure to step forward and represent Montana and try to elevate the importance of some of our Montana and Western issues. Because quite frankly, oftentimes it gets a little bit lost in the shuffle of concentration towards East Coast interests. So Denny does a very nice job in Congress making sure that the voice and the volume is loud enough so that we can be heard out here. So we appreciate what's going on. And that's really why we're here, is to take some time to recognize what Congressman Rehberg is doing and to thank him for his hard work and his continuing efforts in supporting business. Because obviously for the United States Chamber of Commerce, we see ourselves, just as we do here in Montana as the Chamber of Commerce, the state chamber, as being our boots on the ground representing and advocating for business interests. And Congressman Rehberg has demonstrated time and time again that he's there for us, that he's there to support business. He's out to enhance and improve the opportunities for a stronger economy, for entrepreneurship, for energy development, for national security. It surfaces on a number of issues. The U.S. Chamber takes this opportunity every year where they track that. They look across the 435 members of Congress and they say, who's out there that gets it? Who is listening to us? Who is willing to work with us to identify these issues that we think are important to business? Who has made business interests, business issues a priority in their legislative agenda? So every year they publish a book called How They Voted. And this really represents the voting record on key issues that are important to the United States Chamber of Commerce. And at the end of the year, this voting record is evaluated, and the Spirit of Enterprise Award becomes an eligible prize, I should say, for those in Congress that are demonstrating their kind of commitment. So Denny Rehberg has once again won the Spirit of Enterprise Award from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and that's why we're here today. He actually won this award and has received this award earlier. This is for 2008. This is for the 110th Congress. The 2009 voting record is coming up again soon, but we're here today to recognize Congressman Rehberg for his work in the 2008 year. Denny Rehberg, in this 2008 110th Congress, voted in support of business 89% of the time. That's a phenomenal track record. But even better than that, his cumulative voting record since he's been in Congress is 94%. So we really... heard me say this before, so I'll say it again. We're not at 100% yet. So there's still some work to do. But at least he's listening.
But you've seen the light and you know where you're wrong. So.
Never misses the beat. So anyway, again, that's the background. It's a pleasure to recognize you, Congressman Rehberg. Thank you for all your work. Webb, thank you for this opportunity. Again, Congressman Rehberg has already received the award previously. But Webb and his staff are very sensitive to the fact that we want to have a local hometown opportunity here in Montana to say thanks on our own. And you've done a great job.
Thank you. Thank you, Don. It's probably where I thank my mom and my dad. And, no, actually, I would like to thank my dad. That's no joke, because my dad was kind of one of the reasons I got involved in public administration and political affairs, because he was a state legislator back in the 60s and 70s. I grew up, and my dad's story is that my great-grandfather helped create the Milk Control Board in Montana, My grandfather served on the Milk Control Board, and my dad sued him. And ultimately, Mark Roscoe and I eliminated the Milk Control Board. It took 4 generations, and it seemed like a good idea at the time to control the price of milk and to help the little guys, but ultimately, what seemed like a good idea to my great-grandfather, and we had a dairy on Rayburg Lane, that's why Rayburg is named that. That was our dairy, and it was called the Midland Guernsey Dairy. It seemed like a good idea, but by the time 3 generations passed, it had put all small dairy out of business, because if you control the price of a product, you don't have the free market. And when you don't have the free market, Dad's argument, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court, is where he lost it on a 3-2 vote. And his argument was, I can produce a better quality product of milk, cheaper than you're making me charge. So I can't compete with the big guys, because my niche would be to produce a better quality milk cheaper. But I have to charge a higher price, and then what you've done is you've made us all the same. And he tried to make that argument, and the Supreme Court said, no, we're sorry, but the legislature has the ability to set the price of milk, even though it's affecting your ability to be in business. And Dad ran for the legislature as a result. Those are the kinds of decisions that are made every day in the legislature, in the county commission, in the city council, and in Washington, D.C. And there are too many people that are in Washington that do not have a business background. They don't understand. It's not one tax, and it's not one regulation. It's the cumulative effect of all the taxes and all the regulations that finally it becomes such a burden that small business can't function. There's no mobility. There's no ability to absorb the cost, because you can only charge so much for your product. And there are too many people in Washington that do not get that. The Chamber of Commerce represents the people of America who do get it, and who are the ones that are going to make America what we want it to be, and that's building a more secure future for ourselves by having jobs, by having an economy, allowing a little extra money in our pocket to send our kids to school, to buy the car, to buy a bigger business, whether it's another farm, or expanding into a new facility here in this subdivision. Small business is the group that's going to do that. We're going through some pretty painful things right now in Washington, D.C., because today is the anniversary of a failed stimulus plan. And we tried to tell the Obama administration and Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid that it wasn't going to work. You see, there are aspects of the stimulus plan that would work and can work, and that's the construction jobs. But that's only 22% of the stimulus package. It's $1 trillion package, and only 22% of it goes to anything that's stimulative. The rest, if you are following it, went to things like increased food stamps, Head Start, Medicare to the states, which are fine. And you do that through the appropriations process, but how does that stimulate the economy? It doesn't. So I worked with the Chamber in trying to keep that from happening, of saying, if you really want to stimulate the economy, do something like cut payroll taxes on all employees and all employers in half. Let me give you a statistic. The stimulus package with interest is going to cost $1 trillion. If you were to cut every one of your taxes, your payroll taxes, or eliminate them, excuse me, for 1 year, you'd pay no payroll taxes. You'd, as employers, pay no payroll taxes. If you suspended it for 1 year, that costs the same amount of money, the same $1 trillion. Imagine every working American getting money back that they were paying into payroll taxes, and every employer getting to keep the money that they were matching for that employee for 1 year. So now what we're suggesting is suspend the stimulus package, suspend the TARP funding, and take that money and cut payroll taxes 50% for the next 2 years. Think of what that would do to the economy. Take the capital gains tax, lower it to 0. That's what China's is. Take the corporate tax, which is the second highest in the world, the highest being in Japan. And if you've been following Japan, they've lost a decade of economy. They have no economy in Japan right now. They're trying to build it back. And we're second. We're the second highest in the world. If you were to take our 35% rate and cut it to 25% or 12.5%, think of the way that would stimulate the economy. The estate tax. Eliminate it. Go away with it. These are the kinds of ideas we're working with the Chamber on.